Taylor's is a company that was founded back in 1692, and we are fortunate to have remained a family business ever since. And that has allowed each incoming generation to build on the legacy of those who went before, but has allowed us obviously to bring new ideas to the business and indeed to adapt to the environments and challenges that we face. So Taylor's, the heart of Taylor's is, of course, its main vineyards. We have three major properties: Quinta de Vagelas, Quinta de Terra Feita, and Quinta de Junco. We've always felt that vineyard ownership is important. In fact, we were the first company to buy a property back in 1744. But that's allowed us to adapt and to innovate, whether it be through planting new areas or new styles of planting, like vertical planting, or indeed our new sustainable viticultural model, which we have developed with our viticultural and winemaking team in order to preserve the environment and allow us to continue to have great vineyards into the future. The importance of Quinta Nogueira to us as a business is that we have been able to invest in this new technology that we pioneered, where we're using the piston-driven system, what we call port toes, to be able to get the very best out of all the grapes that have come from our partner farmers. I think it's important as a business that we can make the sorts of investments that we need to ensure that we produce the very best quality. And this very, very modern winery, I think, is not only extraordinarily pioneering in its winemaking approach, but I think it also helps to guarantee the quality of Taylor's ports into the future. So vintage port is the very pinnacle of what we do. It's what we try to, if you like, do with every single grape that we grow. By trying to make vintage port out of every grape that we grow, our other products essentially become downward extensions of vintage port. So they're benefiting from that quality of farming and viticulture that we have. Now, it is the benchmark, and we have had, over many, many years, an enviable position of producing some of the finest vintage ports. And from our own perspective, we continue to ensure that each year we make the very best, and it's true to our Taylor traditions, and it's true to our quality standards. We have been fortunate to find that many wine journalists and commentators have consistently found Taylor's to be the best quality. And whether that is by virtue of people like Robert Parker, who is well known around the world, or Wine Spectator giving us 100 points, as for example they did for our 92 or 94 or 2003. What we also find is that we have become the reference for the sector. So in one of our more recent vintages with our Vagelas Vinha Velha, for example, Jancis Robinson, who is a very respected journalist, felt that we, with our 2011s, had produced what she said was the best wine made anywhere in the world that year. Now, to receive an accolade of that level from a journalist who has that experience in tasting around the world clearly underscores that our focus on detail, our focus to produce the very best from our vineyards is producing results. And I hope that we, as a family business, continue to sustain that well into the future. There are very few wines in the world that can last as long as a great port. And if we consider things like Taylor's Scion, which came from 1855 and had spent 150 years or more in wood before we were able to put it in a special decanter and a special box and bring that to the customers, that was a huge success. There wasn't very much of it, but it was able to raise the profile of these extraordinary old wines. And we were able to repeat that with our 1863. And in future, we hope to bring further releases to the market. But I think what all of these great single harvest aged tawnies do is they bring for collectors an opportunity to experience and taste a piece of history. Taylor's ports are typically found in many of the best establishments in the world, whether they be hotels, restaurants, wine shops. But I think what's important is that port is a style that is available to many different consumers. There are very many different price points. The vintage port perhaps leads the way, but with our aged tawnies and with our LBV, we have got accessible styles of port for every consumption moment. And so where vintage port may be used for formal dinners or royal toasts, we nonetheless find late bottle vintage consumed in a very relaxed and informal environment. And this is one of the great things about port and about Taylor's port, is there is one style for everybody. I think as Taylor's looks to the future, it knows that it's benefited from having 300 years of being a private family company, and that's allowed us often to take the very long-term decisions that we need to, whether that is putting port aside today that we expect to sell as a 40-year-old tawny, or we expect our children or grandchildren to sell as an aged tawny in 40 years' time. And it really talks to the fact that by being private over the last 3 centuries, we've been able to make the right long-term decisions. I think increasingly sophisticated consumers around the world are looking to seek out authentic products, products that are made by people who are real experts in what they do, products that are made by people who care passionately about the quality, people who are prepared to take the necessary long-term decisions to ensure quality and consistency. And so as I look to the future generations of our family carrying this philosophy forward, I think that, and I hope that they will be able to draw inspiration, as we indeed have on previous generations, but nonetheless continue to adapt and develop the business for the market requirements. We are a pioneering company, preserving what is best in tradition, but innovating where necessary.